Download the AllStar app. Make your picks for UFC fights, challenge your friends, level up and win prizes. Link in description. Get it now.
There are some major rule changes coming up in mixed martial arts. They start at this event, this fight night event, UFC Fight Night event in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, November 2nd. So in November, these rule changes will go into full effect. So the first one was, well, there's two major, right? So the first one is the legalization of 12 to 6 elbow strikes. Now, we could talk about that first. You know, I mean, that one was like the most widely publicized because, you know, people were talking about like, why is that illegal? Like, it's a strike that doesn't look like it has that much impact. Maybe in certain angles, in certain positions, possibly, but yeah, like the reason why they had it illegal was because a long time ago, if you know the story, like the commission, they saw people breaking bricks and boards with these 12 to 6 elbows on ESPN late at night. So they're like, oh, those are deadly.
Oh, I didn't realize that was why.
Yes,
That's
and
fascinating.
those are
Okay.
deadly because they're breaking bricks.
If you can break cinder blocks.
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly, right?
Okay,
And
okay.
they probably don't know that those cinder blocks are doctored. You know what I mean? Like those what is it? Those pieces of wood? Those what is it called?
Those like planks.
Yeah, planks.
Yeah.
Those are doctored. You got to think they're doctored, dude.
Right,
They're
yeah.
not,
I've seen the guy on the receiving end of those planks just like do a little bit of extra like bend just to
Yeah.
get the planks to like fall in.
And they're just tapping them too, it seems like, right? So,
Yeah.
but you know, people that don't know about fighting, that they don't know about martial arts, of course they're gonna see that and they're gonna be like, "Oh, that looks pretty deadly." That's how fucked up the commissions are, where they got people in position for a commission for fighting,
Right.
and they have no idea what they're
That is
putting,
pretty fun.
implementing any kind of rules and stuff like that. But this is, you know, that, you know, when you look at it, this makes you realize MMA is so new. It's been
Yeah.
around for like, you know, a couple decades, but that's so new compared to any other sport,
Absolutely.
right? So like 12 to 6 elbows, like how does that change, you think, the dynamic of a fight?
So like it's interesting because from a positional standpoint, the top person already has other options to strike the other person. So in some sense, it probably won't feel as. In some senses, it will feel new, but in other senses, it will be like, okay, we're in this position. I need to get the hell out, anyways. So then it kind of gives the top person, if they're able to do more damage with the 12 to 6 elbow, then then it'll be more, I think, like useful for the top person. Because a lot of the ground and pound strikes, sometimes like you got to swing at an angle, and then that shifts your center of gravity a little bit too. So the top person has to momentarily lose balance in certain cases if they really want to put their weight behind a strike from the top position. But if you're going 12 to 6 on an elbow, then your weight doesn't really have to move around that much. Like your hips stay in the exact same spot, and then you just go straight down. So positionally, even more advantages for the top person. Bottom person's got to have urgency, right? Like no one really wants to stay underneath and just be in a position where they want to get hit anyways. So it might be an added sense of urgency. But I think like it will. I don't know. I think the other rule change will have more of an impact on how fights go than this one. This one, I think, eventually became this thing where it was like, all right, like it just makes sense to keep it in. Like it's just another strike to, like a qualified like target on the head kind of thing. So like, but yeah, that's kind of my first guess. But we'll see how the fights look on that card, like how people use the 12 to 6 elbow and stuff.
All right, so two positions, right? Let's talk about the first position. Feel like it will have a huge impact is when you're on your back, and we've seen them throw 6 to 12 elbows, right? So I guess
that's
those
right.
are illegal
True.
in some angles.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like those will be fully allowed. And then when you got somebody in the guard, kind of like holding you down, and not really controlling your arms, then you can throw like pretty sharp elbows from that angle and
That's
cut dudes in the top of the head.
Right, posture breaks, and then like yeah, so you can do more damage from the bottom position too if you're in like a more advantageous position. That does make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so like that will be something that I think coaches will be coaching. If you're on your back, you don't want to be on your back, but if you
Right.
are and you're stuck there, that's something that you can maybe use to like hurt your opponent,
Right,
and then get up, find some space. Yeah, so that could be a possibility, right? On top, I don't think it really changes much,
Right.
and I don't see it changing it too much. You know what I mean? Like, yes, like before they would like throw the elbows like this, just so it's not like coming down like this, right? But now
Right.
you can just boom.
Yeah.
It can have an impact, but it's not going to be like major to where you're like, oh, it's just like it changed the game. You know what I mean? Like,
Right, that's
you talk about the next rule. Yeah, that one is different, right? This one is more of like, it's already being kind of manipulated and used.
Yeah.
And now it's just become legal.
Right.
Another position is like when someone is taking you down, and along the fence, and you got this position where like let's say their left ears on your left hip, right?
Yeah.
Am I right? And they're
Yep,
trying
yep.
to take you down along the fence, right? And then you're
Right.
like, I think from there you can just like this is 12-6, right?
Right. Right.
Or is it 11-7? I don't know what the fuck, right? But still,
Yeah.
like now there's no argument. Like you can just throw these elbows
Right,
to
true.
defend those takedowns,
True,
right?
true.
We've seen it work.
Yeah.
But like now you can like
That's
as long as
true.
it hits the back of the ear or whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
then it's gonna be effective, man. That's gonna change.
That's
though.
true. So
That's
it
gonna
gives you
help.
another option from the defensive side, and it'll make someone who isn't super comfortable with shooting takedowns like another reason to second guess themselves maybe. Because then like even if they're in on a bad shot or something like that, and like the guy sprawls out, but he's holding on to dear life, and like they're fully extended and stuff like that, like they are still vulnerable to a 12-6 elbow, as opposed to just like kind of like light hammer fists in comparison. So that is potentially a big change. I think it'll change more now that you mentioned like the defensive capabilities of it. It will dissuade people from taking risks on the attacking side of grappling exchanges, I think. But we'll have to see like in practicality how it ends up looking.
Well, there's that position where like you're pressing your opponent along the fence. Maybe you have like a single leg
Right.
locked up, but they're
Yeah.
defending well, or maybe you're trying to get the double leg
Yeah.
and lock the hands, but it's hard because he's like angling and like kind of fighting that, and then
Right,
like
and
you
then-
put your head in a position to where like okay, like this dude ain't locking up his hands. Now I
Right.
could throw these elbows, and it's not like I have to be careful with them. I could just be like bang, because it only takes like two of them.
Right.
And then we've seen guys get fucked up on those, right?
Yeah.
And bad too. Like you're like damn, and some guys take like 5 of them, and then you start to notice like oh shit, this dude's like he's rocked, or
Yeah.
they're stuck like that, and they're
Right.
knocked out, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So like I think we'll see more of those, because now there's none of that like
Right, there's no risk of, like-
disqualification,
yeah,
right?
right,
Risk
right.
of disqualification.
Yeah, yeah.
But like you said, like let's say you go for a shot, and we do see guys in this position where they're like, their leg is way out there, and they do have the single leg, but it's like they're flattened out.
Yeah, they're
on their
pretty much
stomach.
like holding on for dear life. Like they don't want their back taken, and they don't want to get choked or whatever.
Exactly,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
then that angle, you could like if you're on top, you can fucking just pound somebody with 12-6 elbows, right?
Yeah.
So in those situations, it's gonna be fun to see if those guys, the fighters, like the light bulb comes on and be like, oh shit, this is legal.
Right, right.
And it's gonna take a little bit, I think, to realize that. But once one person like finishes somebody like in that position, yes, people are gonna be, they're like, finish the fight there, finish it, elbows, elbows.
Right.
You're gonna hear coaches yelling 12-6.
Wild. That's cool though.
It is cool. It is cool.
Yeah. So I think like universally across all positions, like attacking and defensive, it will penalize the person that's in the worst position, or if they're making a positional error, then they could really potentially pay for it.
Yeah.
So like if they want to enter those positions positionally, they're gonna have to be much more like airtight about like, all right, like where do I keep my head position if I don't want to get hit by a 12-6, right? So like, for example, on the cage, if you get to a place where like your head's kind of like glued to their chest and the elbow can't really hit them at like a good spot, then you know, like, but it's good position anyway, but obviously, you know, position's not perfect in a fight. Like as you get stressed or fatigued and stuff like that, then your position starts to break a little bit. Once it breaks just enough for the defending person to land a 12-6, that's where things will get interesting with this rule change.
Definitely get interesting. Now the second rule change is uh, the definition of
What's
a grounded
Mhm.
opponent, right? So basically, if the dude, this is gonna be fun to see how it plays out because
Yeah.
there's no manipulation of the rule now, right?
Right,
If you
right.
are on your hands and feet,
Yep.
you are a grounded opponent.
Mhm.
You don't even have to be on your knees anymore or elbows. If you're on
Right.
your hands and feet and you're playing the game, you
Mhm.
are a grounded opponent, and you could get kicked in the head.
Right.
So what do you think of that? What do you think? How do you think that changes the dynamic of fights now?
That's so I feel like that's a pretty big change because then now you basically have another option. So like where I see the biggest change is sort of like the Aljo and Peter Yan like first fight scenario,
Mm.
where I guess he threw the knee and got DQ'd because like I think Aljo was, well, he was still on a knee, so that doesn't count as much, I suppose. But like, so if you're in front of somebody and they're kind of like quad potted out, right? Then having knees as an option there is pretty big. Because that's already not a great position to begin with, right? Like you can get choked, you can get your back taken, and now on top of that, you have to worry about getting kneed in the face. Um, so whether you end up there offensively or defensively, like if you try to stand up in the wrong way and expose your head on the way up to getting kneed or kicked, people are gonna have to potentially adjust the way they stand up. So like if we're talking, we went over this a little bit in one of the MMA grappling classes a couple weeks ago too, so it's kind of fresh. But like, but so if you're kind of in open guard, right? So like kind of like feet on the hips and stuff. Top person isn't exactly close enough to initiate ground and pound, and then the bottom person can kind of like hip escape and then do like a technical stand up.
Mm.
At some point on that technical stand up, even if you're not fully upright, you can potentially get kneed in the face or like kicked in this case. So like, so now certain escapes become super, super dangerous, where they were not dangerous before.
Mm.
So like, there's got to be some technical adjustments on how to escape, but also there's gonna be more urgency when you're stuck underneath somebody if they are in front of you. So like it kind of makes that sort of like front headlock position a little bit more dangerous, or a lot more dangerous, I should say. Um, and then from the ground, trying to get up, it'll also leave you open to more knees, depending on like which way you decide to get up. Like you cannot hang out in like quad pod or tripod anymore.
No.
Um,
Well, the rule, like I might have said something like false earlier. If you have an elbow down or a knee down,
right,
then
right.
you are a grounded
Yeah,
opponent.
yeah. So
But
like
if
if
it's
you're like
feet
feet and
or
then
hands,
yeah.
so if you have like you said, tripod or a quad pod,
Mm-hmm.
then you can get kicked in the head. You can get
Right.
kneed in the head, and like you said, the front headlock position is very valuable. Like it's always valuable, right?
Right,
But now
right.
it's even more valuable because you could manipulate that position to where like, oh hey, you got the front headlock position.
Mm-hmm.
People are more worried about knees or like submissions
Yeah.
in that position, right? Or the guy trying to go around and take the back, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But even in that position, especially a guy that's a striker,
Right.
they can lock up that position and then like kind of, play with them a little bit and then let them go and then kick their head
Yeah.
while they're like getting up.
Right.
And they're not really, a lot of guys, they'll get up with their hands down or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they've been fighting the hands or whatever.
Yeah.
And like those, I think those are new moves that we might see more often.
Yeah.
Is guys gonna try to kick people's heads off in those positions.
Yeah. So like it makes the front headlock so much more useful.
Mm.
I'm not sure if we'll see if it goes as far as like turning the front headlock into a potential like end game position
Mm.
where like people just sh- pretty much gun for the front headlock so they can adjust the position in such a way where they'll just kind of do like a triple threat of like, do I take the back, do I front choke, or do I knee this person? Like it's already so much to defend with like submission and positional threats alone, and then now adding the ability to um, throw knees on top of that is just like crap. Like that's a really really rough position to be in. So like if you get put in a front headlock from November 2nd on out, like you better have a very serious sense of urgency to be like, I got to get the hell out of this position or I'm potentially really really fucked.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see like who utilizes it,
Mm-hmm.
like what coaches are are focusing on that position more than other coaches,
Right,
and
right.
which fighters are gonna excel in those positions.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, the Peter Yan, Aljamain Sterling thing, he had a knee down, right?
He did, he did.
He had a knee down, right? So he was kind of like in like a crouching position.
Yeah, so I think he had control of either one or both of Peter Yan's hands.
Yeah.
And then as Peter threw the knee, like the slow motion replay looked like the knee just barely
Yeah.
left the ground, if it left the ground at all, or the knee could have been the cause for the knee leaving. Peter Yan's knee to the head could have been the cause for Aljo's knee leaving the ground just from the impact. So it's hard to say, but
To
yeah,
me, I think they should have
no
just
contest
allowed,
or
you know, like if someone's on their back, obviously you don't want to kick them in the head. But
right, right.
like other than that, like if you're on side control, you should be able to knee to the head.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference of knees and elbows? Like I think elbows are more devastating,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So, and again, elbows can cut you even faster, right? So like I
Mm-hmm.
think, because now there's still gonna be issues with this. Like you said, the Alja situation, it doesn't clear that up.
Right.
That's the problem. It doesn't clear, the rule change doesn't clear up the Aljo situation with
Mm-hmm.
Peter Yan.
That's true.
But
Yeah.
if we allowed, like if you have your knees and your if you're a grounded opponent, the only thing that you cannot throw is soccer kicks.
Yep.
You could throw knees, and you got to protect yourself at all times.
Yeah.
Right? Like you said earlier about safe positions. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's lesser safe positions now, but there's still safe positions.
Right.
Why are there safe positions in fighting? That's a question.
Yeah, it's like you should not try to make your position worse to take advantage of a rule. Where it's
Exactly.
like if it's like, okay, sweet, if I go flat on my back now I'm not gonna get kneed in the face. There's like something philosophically like counterintuitive about that decision making process.
Mm.
Where it's like, all right, let me get flatter on the ground where in a real fight situation, it's like, well, you're prone to get more punched in the face and like all of this. But now you're taking advantage of a rule, so to speak. So like, it's an odd one. I guess it depends on how the fans feel about grounded knees. So like whether they belong in MMA or not, because then that if that's like the potential next step as far as changing rules go, then that really really changes um, how people will escape from the bottom position. Um, if they try to escape at all, they probably will. But
Yeah,
it's gonna be a different process.
for sure. Well, let us know in the comments what you think about these rule changes. They won't go into effect for about 2 months. So, there's a lot of discussion, and maybe you're watching this and, in your gym, you guys are preparing for that. You know what I mean? Let us know.